The rain didn't let up for a second. It slapped against the windshield like it was angry I'd come back. 6 hours. That's how long I drove from Virginia to Pennsylvania. No music, no phone calls, just me, the road, and silence so thick it could cut. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was already on, like they were expecting someone. But not me. Lily's white SUV was parked perfectly near the front steps, clean and gleaming, untouched by the storm. I sat in the car a minute longer, watching the wipers come to a stop. My fingers were still locked around the wheel, not from the drive, but from everything I already knew I'd feel the moment I walked in. I opened the trunk, grabbed my small overnight bag, and the gift I'd wrapped the night before, a photo album I made by hand. I knocked twice. No answer. So I opened the door slowly, just like I always had. My mom's voice floated from the kitchen. "Oh, Kayla, you made it." Too cheerful. Too light. Like she was greeting a coworker, not a daughter. Lily sat on the bar stool at the island, laughing, flipping her hair. A sparkling diamond ring cut the light. "You look tired," she said, smiling, barely glancing at me. I just nodded. "Long drive." Dad didn't get up. He didn't hug me. He just looked at his glass and said, "Should have come last night. We had cocktails." And that's when it hit me. This wasn't home anymore. This was a performance, and I hadn't been cast in it. Dinner started at 6. Lily had changed into a floral designer dress. I was still in my jeans and travel sweater. Nobody said anything about it, but I felt the contrast like a spotlight I couldn't step out of. Mom served pot roast, Lily's favorite, of course. Dad poured wine for everyone. Everyone but me. "Still on that health kick?" he said with a smirk, sliding a glass of sparkling water my way. I didn't correct him. I just nodded. The conversation circled around Lily and her fiancé, his new promotion, her wedding plans, their perfect future. I chewed slowly. I wasn't even hungry. I was just present. Invisible, in plain sight. Then Dad cleared his throat. He stood up and smiled. "Lily," he said, lifting a boutique-wrapped box with a gold ribbon, "your mother and we wanted you to have something special tonight." Lily gasped, her hands already reaching for the bow. She untied it with the grace of someone used to unwrapping gifts meant only for her. Inside a small velvet box. She opened it and froze. "A key?" she asked, confused but smiling. "To what?" Dad's smile widened. "To the Riverbend house, the one you two grew up in. It's yours now. You've earned it." Lily teared up. Mom beamed. Ryan clapped her back like she'd just won an award. And then they all looked at me like I should clap too. I didn't. I smiled. Tight, controlled, and waited. Mom turned to me with something white in her hands. "For you, Kala," she said, like she was handing over a napkin. "We thought of something that might suit you better." I took the envelope. No ribbon, just my name in faint, fading ink. Inside, a printed job listing. Administrative assistant, entry level, $38,000 per year. Location, Harrisburg. I stared at it. Dad chuckled and added, "It's more manageable, more your pace." Lily nodded, like that made sense. Ryan sipped his wine. No one saw my fingers tighten under the table, and no one noticed me stop breathing for just a second. I didn't cry. Not when they handed her the key. Not when they handed me a job ad like it was charity. Not even when I saw my childhood, my bedroom, the backyard swing, the lilac tree, officially declared as hers. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand an explanation. Because that's not how you survive people who pretend their cruelty as kindness. Instead, I smiled. Not the kind of smile you give when you're happy, the kind you wear like armor, tight, sharp, and quiet. The kind that says, "You don't get to see me bleed." Later, when I excused myself to go to the bathroom, I passed the hallway closet. 3 cardboard boxes sat stacked neatly by the door. Black marker labels screamed at me, louder than any insult ever could. Kala's room, Kala's closet, Kala Misk. They'd already packed me up. Already decided I wasn't part of this story anymore. Inside the bathroom, I locked the door. My breath came out in sharp bursts. My fingers trembled. But still, I didn't cry. I opened my phone, checked my email, bank statement, mortgage notice. 3 weeks ago. My name was listed as a co-signer on the transfer, but I had never signed anything. I stared at the digital signature, perfect practiced fake. My father didn't just forget me, he forged me. That was the moment the silence inside me changed shape. It wasn't fear anymore, it was focus. From that moment on, I stopped hoping for fairness, and I started collecting proof. They gave her a house. They gave me a warning. The rain hadn't stopped. It followed me home like it knew I wasn't ready to feel safe. By the time I stepped into my apartment, everything felt damp, even the air. My coat was soaked, my jeans stuck to my legs, my heart still clenched from dinner. I dropped my bag at the door and tossed the job ad onto the table. It landed face up. No experience required, like a final punchline to a cruel joke. I didn't sit. I didn't unpack. I went straight to my laptop. Something had been pulling at me all night, tight, invisible, the kind of tug you don't understand until it's too late. I opened my email, scrolled. There it was. Subject, mortgage transfer confirmation, dated 3 weeks ago. I clicked. The PDF opened with a soft hum. It listed the property address 542 Riverbend Lane. My name appeared clearly at the bottom, co-signer, except I hadn't signed anything, not in person, not online, not ever. I zoomed in on the signature. It was my name, but it wasn't my writing, not the slight slant of my K, not the loop I always left in the L, not the quick little tail I add at the end like a flick of resistance. This wasn't mine. It was a replica. Someone had practiced my name over and over. Until it looked almost right. Almost. I leaned back in my chair, throat dry, hands cold. He hadn't just erased me, he impersonated me. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying the signature, the fake loops, the forged identity, the invisible hand that reached across a legal document and erased me without a sound. I kept thinking, if they could do that to my name on paper, what else had they rewritten? The next morning, I drove back to the house. Not to confront, not yet. I told myself I left something in the guest room. When Mom opened the door, she looked surprised. Not worried, just surprised. Like someone watching a storm that showed up earlier than forecast. "Oh, Kala, you're back." "I forgot something," I said, breezing past her. Down the hallway, everything looked familiar, but colder, like a memory forced to behave. Then I saw them, 3 boxes, stacked neatly near the laundry room, taped shut, Kala's closet, Kala's books. Kala Mesk, written in thick black marker. Not our daughter's things, not Kala's memories, just cold categories, sorted, separated, like I was already gone. I stood there staring at them, like I was reading my own obituary written in Sharpie. I didn't open them, didn't touch them, because somehow the unopened tape hurt more. That's when it hit me. They didn't just give Lily a house, they gave me an exit strategy. Without saying a word, they'd already moved on from me. Back in my apartment, the silence felt heavier than before. Not the soft kind, the thick, choking kind. The kind that sits on your chest and won't let go. I turned on my printer, watched the light flicker, watched the ink spill the truth onto paper. Page 1, the mortgage transfer. My name, clean and confident. Signed, but not by me. I stared at the signature. It looked so sure of itself, so official, like it had authority over my life. I reached for a red pen. My hand didn't shake. One slow, deliberate circle around the forgery. Not messy, not angry, precise. It felt like surgery. I stepped back, looked at the paper. It was still quiet in the room. No screaming, no breakdown, just that strange internal snap, like a string inside me had finally pulled too tight and gave way. Not a collapse, just a shift. Like something cold and sharp had slid into place where softness used to be. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't explode. It etches itself quietly in the margins of paper, in the weight of silence, in a red circle no one else thought to draw. I stood in the hallway of their house the next day. The carpet was the same. So was the smell, lemon wood polish, and something faintly floral. But what hit me wasn't scent. It was what was missing. Along the left wall, picture frames lined the space like a timeline. Lily's kindergarten recital, her third-grade science fair, eighth-grade dance, Sweet 16, high school prom. Her college acceptance photo framed twice, actually. One version in color, one in black and white. Like it was important enough to be seen two different ways. And then, nothing. No graduation photo of me, no honors cord, no cap, no gown. Not even a candid shot of me smiling awkwardly after the ceremony. I stood there and traced the empty space between frames with my eyes. That wall told a story, but I wasn't in it. It wasn't a mistake. It was design. A slow, quiet removal, one skipped frame at a time. I stepped outside. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still soft. My boots left faint impressions in the soil, like even the earth hadn't decided if I belonged there. The backyard looked smaller than I remembered. The lilac tree I planted with Mom when I was 9 still stood tall in the corner, half forgotten. But what pulled me in was the swing set, rust on the chains, peeling paint, and that old wooden plank seat still hanging, still waiting. I walked over slowly. It creaked when I touched it, like it recognized me. I sat down. The swing didn't move. It just groaned gently beneath my weight, as if it was tired too. I ran my fingers across the underside of the seat, and there it was, faint but still there, Kala, carved into the wood with a dull pocket knife and too much heart. I remembered the afternoon I did it. Lily had run inside crying because she wasn't allowed to touch the knife. Mom scolded me. Dad laughed and said, well, at least one of them knows how to leave a mark. Back then, I thought it was a compliment. Now it felt like a warning I wrote to myself years ago and forgot to read. The swing swayed gently in the breeze. It still had my name, but the people who built the yard around it, they'd forgotten who it belonged to. I used to think it was just forgetfulness. The missed birthdays. The photos never framed. The way my name always came last or not at all. I gave them the benefit of the doubt, again and again and again. But standing there, in front of boxed memories, a swing with my name, and a wall that told Lily's story like it was the family's only legacy, I finally understood. This wasn't a mistake. It was strategy. They didn't forget me. They removed me. Not with violence, not with screaming, but with edits, with silence, with carefully chosen omissions. They left me out of the photos, out of the documents, out of the will. They edited the story of our family like I was a typo. And every time I stayed quiet, every time I smiled politely, I helped them write me out of existence. I wasn't overlooked. I was erased. I drove for hours past the town, past the edges of cell service, past the version of myself that still asked for permission. The road narrowed into gravel. Trees leaned in from both sides, thick with silence. No signs, no lights, just memory guiding me now. And then, there it was, the cabin. Still standing, still small, still ours. The wood had grayed, the porch sagged a little more than I remembered, but I knew every creak in those boards. This place had been Grandpa's haven, and for one summer, it had been mine too. I reached under the loose top plank, just like he showed me when I was 9. The key was still there, cold, familiar. I stepped inside. Dust bloomed in the sunlight. The air smelled like wood, old paper, and ghosts that refused to leave. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't need them. I went straight to the fireplace. 3 planks over, 1 plank down. That was the rhythm. I pried it up slowly, and there it was. A black folder, a cassette recorder, a sealed envelope with my name, Kala, written in his uneven but unmistakable handwriting. I pressed play. And his voice, soft, aged, but sharp, filled the room. If you're hearing this, Kala, it means they erased you. My breath caught. I sat down slowly on the floor. I couldn't stop them, but I left you this, because someone had to remember you. Someone had to leave the door open just in case you ever came back. The tape clicked softly. The silence after felt alive. I opened the black folder with trembling fingers. Each document inside was yellowed around the edges, like truth aging quietly in the dark. One paper stood out, thicker than the rest. Official seal, signatures, a bold line at the top that read, Property title, Aspen, Colorado. I blinked. My name, listed clearly. Kala Jameson, sole owner. And then the detail that knocked the air out of me, date of transfer, June 14th, 2013. I was 16. 16. He had put a house in my name before I even knew how to drive. It was all there, signed, notarized, witnessed. Every legal box checked. Every dotted line filled. I sat there, the folder open in my lap, and for a moment, I didn't move, because something inside me had just shifted, like a compass realigning. This wasn't kindness. This was preparation. He knew. Grandpa knew. He knew the others would rewrite the story, so he wrote mine in advance, in ink, in law, in places they couldn't reach without lying. They could steal one house, but they couldn't steal this. This one was mine. At the bottom of the deed, in small print, a clause was underlined. Owner must formally confirm inheritance within 30 days of activation notice. Failure to respond voids claim. The activation date, 7 days ago, which meant I had 23 days left. 23 days to stand up for something that was already mine. 23 days to prove I belonged in the story they tried to erase me from. And I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't slam doors or cry in kitchens, no. I would file documents, I would build a timeline, I would find the people who still remembered Grandpa's signature, and I would make the truth undeniable. They'd built their lives thinking I'd stay silent. That was their mistake. Because silence doesn't mean surrender, it means strategy. The office hadn't changed, still the same worn leather chairs, still the same ticking grandfather clock in the corner, still the scent of paper coffee and quiet promises. Raymond looked older. Gray had swallowed what was once black in his hair. But when he saw me, his eyes softened, like someone had been holding their breath for years and finally let go. Kala, he said, as if my name had been waiting in the air this whole time. I sat down across from him. I found the cabin, I said. He nodded, slowly. No surprise. I thought you might, he replied, opening the bottom drawer of his desk. He pulled out a thin, weathered envelope. My name was written on it, in Grandpa's handwriting. He asked me to hold this, Raymond said. 7 years ago, he told me not to call you, not to interfere. Just wait until you came on your own. I didn't touch the letter, not yet. He knew they'd try to erase you, Raymond continued, but he also knew you'd find your way back. And just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. I bought a new phone, not for selfies, not for calls. Just for one button, record. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't storm out of rooms, I simply listened. And the lies? They flowed like water. Well, she never appreciated what we gave her anyway, Dad muttered once, not knowing I'd hit record. She doesn't understand family, Lily said at dinner, her voice coated in sugar and spite. It was just easier this way, Mom whispered when she thought I was asleep. Every time they spoke, every word they dropped like broken glass, I captured it. Not to humiliate them, but to hold them accountable, because memory fades, but a recording, that doesn't blink. It looked like every other family dinner. Lily brought her signature pie, Dad opened his usual bottle of red wine. Mom lit the candles like she always did, like this was a scene worth pretending for. But I had something new in my purse. Not perfume, not keys, a cease and desist order. I waited until dessert. I unfolded the paper slowly, placed it next to the wine glasses, and looked at them one by one. "This is a legal notice," I said, my voice calm. "You have 14 days to vacate the Riverbend house. It was signed over fraudulently. I have proof, and I intend to reclaim it." Silence. Lily's fork froze mid-air. Then I smiled gently, almost kindly. "By the way, Dad, that signature on the deed, did I sign it with my right hand or my left?" He blinked. He forgot. I never told them I'm left-handed. 3 chairs, 1 table, a judge who had seen hundreds of broken families and didn't blink at one more. On the left, Mom, stone-faced. Next to her, Dad, checking his watch like this was a business meeting. And at the end, Lily, arms crossed, lips pursed, wearing a pearl necklace like it could protect her. Then there was me. I didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't apologize. I walked in with a file of evidence, a voice that didn't shake, and a name they tried to erase printed boldly on the cover of every document. "Ms. Kala Thompson," the judge said, glancing at the papers. "You may begin." I took a breath, and I did. Not as a victim, but as the rightful heir, the forgotten daughter, and now the undeniable truth. The courtroom was silent, not with peace, but with pressure. Kala didn't speak first. Her lawyer did. "Your Honor, what we are about to present," he began, "will establish a clear pattern of deceit, fraud, and willful exclusion. Exhibit A, an audio file, Kala's voice. Silent. But her father's, 'She never cared about the house. Lily deserves it more,' played out loud in court." Gasps. The judge raised one brow. Lily stared down at her hands. Exhibit B, a handwriting analyst called to the stand. She placed the signature under a microscope, literally and legally. "This was not written by Kala Thompson," she stated. "The stroke pressure, curvature, and formation are inconsistent with her handwriting. It is a forgery." Exhibit C, the old will retrieved from the lawyer's safe. Signed, dated, notarized, naming only one heir, Kala. And finally, Exhibit D, a witness, the family's former housekeeper, old, quiet, trembling a little, but her voice didn't tremble when she said, "The old man, Mr. Thompson, he told me Kala will understand one day." She doesn't need applause, just the truth. The courtroom didn't erupt, it just broke. The courtroom was still. No outbursts, no objections, just breath being held by everyone. The judge, glasses low on his nose, tapped the gavel once, not to silence chaos, but to confirm order had been restored. "Based on the presented evidence, witness testimony, and verified legal documentation," he said, "this court recognizes Miss Kala Thompson as the rightful and legal heir to both properties, the Riverbend residence and the Aspen estate." A pause. "The defendants are ordered to vacate both properties within 30 days. Any continued occupation will be treated as unlawful." Lily didn't speak. For once, she couldn't. She lowered her gaze. Her pearls didn't protect her anymore. Kala didn't smile, didn't smirk. She simply stood up, nodded to the judge, and whispered only 3 words as she walked out. "It's finally enough." She didn't burn bridges. She didn't throw their portraits in the fireplace. She simply walked back into the Riverbend house, the one they tried to erase her from, and picked up one single object left on the shelf, the golden ribbon, once wrapped around Lily's key, once meant to mock her with the shine she'd never been given. She tied it into a knot, placed it gently on the kitchen counter, and left. No note, no anger, no permission. Just the sound of her own footsteps walking into a future that no longer needed their approval. "I don't need their apology," she would later say. "I don't need them to see me. I just needed them to stop pretending I was never there. The air in Aspen was thinner, not just because of the altitude, but because the weight was finally off her chest. Kala opened the front door slowly. No one waited behind it, and that was perfect. The house was quiet, untouched. Wooden floors, wide windows, and light that poured in without asking permission. She walked from room to room, not as a guest, but as the owner. She wasn't careful. She didn't tiptoe. She belonged. In the study, she hung a photo, not of her family, but of herself. Graduation day, the one no one attended. In the living room, she placed a single framed quote, "I was never missing. They just never looked." There were no applause, no speeches, but every shelf, every wall, every corner now whispered her name, not with pity, but with pride. The envelope was old, edges yellowed, her name written in her grandfather's slow, careful script. She opened it with both hands gently, like something sacred. Inside, just one page. Kala, if you're reading this, it means they tried to erase you. But they couldn't. Because I didn't leave you a key. I gave you the door. A pause in her chest. She let the letter fall to her lap. And for the first time, Kala smiled. Not the quiet, polite smile she had practiced for years, but the kind that rises from your ribs when you finally realize, I wasn't too much. I was just never theirs to contain. She folded the letter, tucked it between pages of her journal. Then she stood by the window. No applause, no spotlight. Just the quiet truth that her grandfather had always seen her, even when the rest of the world refused to look. Sometimes the people who were supposed to protect you will be the ones who write you out of your own story. But silence doesn't mean surrender, and walking away doesn't mean giving up. Kala didn't raise her voice. She raised her proof. She didn't fight to belong. She built a life where belonging was never up for debate. You don't have to ask permission to exist. Sometimes the greatest revenge is peace. And the most powerful gift you can give yourself is finally saying, "This is mine. I earned it." If this story touched you, if you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or forgotten, hit that subscribe button and join us. Because here, your voice matters, your pain is valid, and your comeback, it begins now. Don't just watch, belong.